Hi, I'm Nate Savage and welcome to video 9 of the Rhythm Guitar Quick Start series. In this lesson, we're going to go over some of the most fundamental strumming patterns that you're going to need to know as a rhythm guitar player. These strumming patterns are kind of like the fundamental building blocks that you're going to be using to build a lot of your strumming patterns in the future. And if you can get these down really well, it's going to make learning new strumming patterns a lot easier for you. Some of these are probably going to seem pretty simple to you, but it's very important that you get these down very well. So I have a jam track for you. What we're going to do is use just the drum jam track or loop that we've been using over the past few lessons to work on these simple strumming patterns. Before we jump into the strumming patterns that we're going to learn in this lesson, I want to go over some simple strumming technique tips with you just to make sure that we're all on the same page. The first tip that I have for you is to relax. By that, I mean don't tense up. If you tense when you strum, it's going to do a couple of things. It's going to make your playing not really sound fluid, and you're going to get tired easily. So the first tip is to relax. The second tip goes kind of hand in hand with that, and that is to not just lock your wrist and strum from your elbow. What you want to do is make sure that your wrist is relaxed and not locked up. That way, you're going to have some fluidity again in your playing, and you won't be so rigid. You won't get tired as easy. One way to kind of incorporate this or think about this is to pretend like you have something stuck on your finger and you're just trying to flick it off. If you think about that, my elbow is still moving, but there's a lot of motion coming from my wrist too, and it's really relaxed. So remember those couple of tips as we move forward and you should be good to go. The first strumming pattern we're going to look at is a basic 8th note strumming pattern that uses all downstrokes. And if you've never counted 8 notes before, I'll teach you how to do that real quick. Now, usually when you have a song that's going on, you have an underlying pulse, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those would be quarter notes. And for this strumming pattern, we need 8 notes. So we're basically going to double that. And to do that, we count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. The key here when doing this 8th note strumming pattern with all downstrokes is to concentrate on keeping the notes even and in time. This may seem like a really simple strumming pattern again, but it's really great for concentrating on developing your timing and feel on the guitar. So for the rest of these strumming patterns, I'm just going to be playing a regular G chord, and here's how this one would sound over the jam track. The next essential strumming pattern that we're going to go over uses the exact same rhythm as the last one, but instead of using all downstrokes, we're going to be using alternating down and upstrokes. And a lot of newer guitar players have trouble with their upstrokes, so I'm going to give you 2 tips that'll help you get these upstrokes down really well. The first one is, when I'm playing a G chord and I make a downstroke, I generally hit all 6 strings. When I make an upstroke, I'm only hitting about the top 3 or 4 strings. So don't feel like you have to hit all 6 strings with your upstrokes. Second tip I have for you is don't dig in too much of your pick on the strings on your upstroke. Otherwise, it can be a little bit hard to get your pick through the strings. Just enough of the tip of the pick to make the strings ring out in a volume that matches your downstroke. So down, up. So like I said, a straight 8th note strumming pattern again. So we're going to have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And on the numbers, you're going to be hitting downstrokes. On the ands, you're going to be hitting upstrokes. Here's how it'll sound with the drums. Let's take this 8th note strumming pattern one step further by putting some accents in with it. Being able to put accents in any of your strumming pattern is a really valuable skill to have. So basically what I'm going to do is go through this exact same pattern, but I'm going to accent beats 2 and 4. So the 2nd and 4th downstroke. So if you have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and you're just going to dig into the strings a little bit more on 2 and 4. What this is going to do is going to kind of create a feeling like a drummer might be playing with you or something like that. So here's what it sounds like with the jam track. So using accents in a regular kind of meat and potatoes strumming pattern like this is a great way to customize it to whatever song you're playing to. And you can tell if a strum is supposed to be accented, there's a little arrow probably above the chord or the tab on the sheet music. This next strumming pattern is a little bit more involved, but it's still based on a regular straight eighth note strumming pattern. I call this one the down, down, up strumming pattern, and it incorporates a concept called the constant strumming technique. And all that is, the constant strumming technique, is when you keep your eighth note strumming going, even if you don't actually dig into the strings on one of the strums that you're doing. And let me just show you this strumming pattern, and that'll become more apparent once we go through it. The basic counting for this strumming pattern is 1, 2, and. So if you pay attention, my arm kept going just like it normally would, 1 and 2 and. But I left out the first and, so the first upstroke, I didn't dig into the strings. So 1 and 2 and. And just do that over and over again until you get it. So 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. So that's the basic down, down, up strumming pattern. You can do that over beats 1 and 2 and over beats 3 and 4 as well. So you have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. The trick here is to keep your strumming arm going on the eighth notes even when you don't dig into the strings. Here's how it'll sound with the jam track. Learning how to leave strums out of eighth note or 16th note strumming patterns like this is a really valuable skill to have. And speaking of 16th note strumming patterns, our last strumming pattern that we're going to go over is a straight 16th note strumming pattern. If you don't know how to count 16th notes, we'll go over that real quick. 16th notes are basically when you have 4 evenly spaced strums over each beat. And the way you count 16th notes is 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. So we have 4 syllables to count for each of the 4 strums contained on each beat. This may seem pretty simple to you, but there's going to be a lot more strumming going on with the 16th note strumming pattern. So be careful, don't let the pick fly out of your hand, and don't tense up when you're doing all this strumming. So start out slowly. If you have to grab a metronome and lower the tempo down, that's totally fine. Work on your strumming, and you can even throw accents in with the 16th note strumming pattern if you want to. Here's how it'll sound with the jam track. So now that you've been exposed to these fundamental strumming patterns, it's important that you pull up the jam track and start applying them to your open chords, your power chords, and your bar chords. Thanks for watching this video. In the next lesson, we're going to look at a completely different aspect of rhythm guitar playing, and that's working on developing your timing and your feel. This is an incredibly important topic for your overall musicianship, especially if you plan on recording or playing with other people. If you have any questions about these strumming patterns, just leave them here in the comments and I'll get back to you. Otherwise, you can email me, Nate@guitarsystem.com. I'll see you around.